So we're at the WTMM number 2 or part 2, worst traumatizing moments in my life. This story it actually started years ago when I was about 18 years old. I started college when I was 18, and I was always catching the bus to college. One day I decided to sit on the side of the bus facing upward to where you could see all the houses on the side of the street on the left-hand side. And what caught my eye was a little white house next to a liquor store. And I would always look at that house and I would wonder who lived in that white house. And then one day when I was catching the bus home, I don't know, it just felt like somebody was looking at me from that little white house. This went on for years, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all my life of my young adulthood. I've always felt that something was wrong with that particular house. So one day, I'm out with my half-sister and her friends, and they start talking about some guy. And I was like, you guys know I'm dating someone. And they was like, oh, you wouldn't want to go at him anyway because he likes doing it up the ass. So I was just like, you guys are gross. And I told them, I said, anyways, what's his name? They never told me his name, but they just said, this guy. And so I shined it on. I didn't pay no attention to it. And the relationship I was in with the person I was with at that time, we were together for about I guess you could say 6 years, but things were sour. Things weren't going good in the relationship because the way he treated me. And so one day I'm at home. At that time in my life, I was a party animal. I loved just going to college, partying, living in my own world. I hardly drunk, but I was always smoking weed at that time, all the time. And so one day, my niece tells me, the neighbor would like for you to come play cards. And I was like, wow, I'm actually getting invited to play cards with a neighbor. Great. I mean, what harm could come from talking to a neighbor? So I asked my mother, of course, even though I was a grown woman, but I'm living at her house under her roof, her rules. So she didn't mind. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got dressed and went to go play cards at the neighbor's house. And so I meet this guy at the neighbor's house. And I'm already so high to where I didn't even... My instinct and my gut feeling wasn't communicating with my conscience. So I was unconscious all the way. I couldn't think for myself, even if my life depended on it at that time. And so what I can remember is sitting down playing cards. I had a couple of drinks, which I shouldn't have been drinking. And next thing I know, I'm on the floor naked with this guy. And his hands is around my neck. So I started thinking to myself, what did I just do? Have a one-night stand? I didn't think that was right for him to do, for it to get me drunk and take advantage of me. So I shined it on. I didn't think of nothing about it. But I was really upset because I was already dating this white guy that I really liked a lot. But he was going through a divorce, so I didn't really want nothing to do with that. I didn't feel like having some white woman come to my door or call me on my phone talking about, you homewrecker, you're taking my husband. When it wouldn't have even been my fault because they were already going through a divorce. So I didn't want nothing to do with that. And so I was at home thinking to myself, like, I hope I'm not, like pregnant, because I wasn't on any type of birth control. And so, like, literally, I ended up getting pregnant. So I was like, dang, I don't even know who this guy is. I don't even know him. All I know is that his nephew and my niece were really good friends. And I just don't know what to do. So I ended up getting dressed for school. I was taking a political science course, and I just so happened to get hired from my political science honors class into the legislative office at that time. This is in, I think, year 2006. And so I'm doing intern. And so it was just like really cool. I loved it. Like, I just so happened to get this job, and I was working there, went there every day faithfully on time until my intern was up, which was 6 months later. And so I find out, that I really was pregnant. So by that guy. So I'm continuing catching the bus to school, to the college, and I'm still looking at this little white house that I've been looking at ever since I was 18 years old. And I felt like somebody from that house was watching me. So after I gave birth to my daughter, I tried to tell him that, that he's not the father, because I didn't want nothing to do with him because of something that he did when I was pregnant with, our daughter. And so what he did was terrible. And he thinks that he didn't do anything, but hey, try getting smacked on your back during sex and asking a person to stop and they refuse not to. That's like torture. I don't even want to think about that. So he shines it on all the time. He doesn't even pay attention. And whenever he invites me over to his house, I never go for fear that he might try to beat me in my back. So anyways, one day he comes over, and he has a relative with him. And everything seems like really weird to me. Like something just doesn't seem right. Something is telling me in my mind, in my gut, and in my heart that something doesn't seem right. And so I really didn't have anything to say to him, but he ended up putting his arms around me, like he has that right to put his arms around me and to touch me. And that made me furious. I was so upset. And he asked me, why am I being so mean to him? Like, why do you think I'm being so mean to you? You know why. You know what you did. And you think that I wouldn't be smart enough to figure it out. And so one day, after that day, it was like a couple of months later, his relative comes by talking to me. At first, I wasn't going to go to the door because I don't want nothing to do with them. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to be rude. And, I have a weird feeling about him. It's just him. I'm not doing anything to this person. He chose me. I didn't choose him. I don't even know this guy. Even till this very day. I don't know who he is. I don't know. I have no idea who he is. But I did figure out one thing of what and who he is. So the person that came by tells me that they're related to the person I was working for, the legislative department. And a light bulb came over my head, and I was just like, what in the world? Wait a minute. So it flashed back. I had a flashback. He took me. He's the person that lived in that little white house on the corner by the liquor store. Because he took me to that house, and I stood there and I was like, You live here? It was you? Was it you? Because there had to be someone else in cahoots. Had to be. He couldn't have pulled it off all by himself. So I was really upset because the child that I wanted to have was not, he wasn't the one I wanted it with. He wanted it with me, but I didn't want it with him. I would have wanted it with him, of course, if he didn't do what he did. Ever since I was 18 years old, really stalking me, watching me. That little white house on the corner by the liquor store. And they were all related. And I'm thinking to myself, now, what on earth could a person do so wrong to get victimized like that? I worked so hard in college to get good grades. And ever since I've been going to that particular college, I've been given F's and D's. How could a person get an F in physical education unless they don't attend every day? Attend every day in PE, physical education, and I still get an F? So I just put everything together. That's the only logical explanation. It's highly logical. This is one of the worst traumatizing moments in my life. So traumatizing to where I feel I should be compensated. I feel that I should be able to file a lawsuit for being victimized. The only thing